Hi everybody, welcome to chapter 39 for English for Everyone in my American Idioms class. This is a very short video just with a couple of idioms from this book that I really like we're using for our class. It's called English for Everyone. So let's go ahead and look at chapter 39. If you have your book, you can use your book. If not, you can just follow along without it. I'm going to go ahead and get to the book, just so I have it in front of me. So here we go, a couple of idioms about success and failure. Success idioms. I love success. Don't you love success? Who doesn't want to be successful? The first one I want to talk about on page 162 is overnight success. And the idiom means to be successful very quickly. The example we're given in the book is Nathan's first book was an overnight success. It sold 1 million copies in 1 month. Now, to be successful very quickly rarely actually happens overnight. It's not really overnight. Here's an example. Overnight success can take a long time. Ray Kroc, who's the founder of McDonald's, and we know McDonald's, there's a McDonald's in almost every single country in the world. Ray Kroc said, I was an overnight success, all right, but 30 years is a long, long night. So the idiom doesn't really mean that it happens overnight. What it means is it happens quickly, but sometimes there's a lot of preparation that goes on before the quick. But that's fun. Overnight success, that's a good one. Another good one is going places. I really like the idiom going places because we're taking words that we use all the time, like go and place, and we're putting them together to add meaning to it. The example in the book is, I knew Helena would go places as an athlete. She was so good at running at school. And it means to become successful. If you say, I go to the store, it means I go to the store. If you say, I want to go to that place, say McDonald's, that just means go to McDonald's. But if you say, I'm going places, or he's going places, that doesn't actually mean a place, it means the place of success. My example for that is Gman, one of my best students, and he is really going places in college. So I have an example here of he is in the ASMC, Director of Student Services, which means he's in student government, and he's a tutor, so he's doing great. He's highly successful, which means he's going places, right? He's going to be very successful. He's going places in college. This is a great idiom that you can use. The next success idiom that I have is runaway success, and I love runaway success. We think of a runaway train as a train being out of control, but in this case, it's a runaway success as extremely successful. The outdoor exhibition has been a runaway success. Lots of people have come to see it. It's been very successful. The example that I have for that is my new book, which I hope to have out by the end of the year. And it's a fiction. It's very exciting. It's a choose your own adventure. I'm speaking hopeful truth that Professor C's new book is a runaway success, and everybody likes it and buys it and reads it and enjoys it. Those are my 3 success idioms in this chapter that I pulled out. There's more that you can study, but those are the ones that I really like. The next section that we have is failure, and nobody wants to fail, obviously, but failure is part of success. It's so very important that we fail, because if we don't fail, we don't grow and we don't get better. We have lots of ways to talk about failure, and here are 3 that I picked out that I really like. Utter failure is interesting because it means complete failure, and sometimes you'll actually hear people say a complete and utter failure, so we just even really emphasize that. But if you say complete and utter, that's like the most extreme failure you could have. Here we have the barbecue was an utter failure. It rained and none of my friends turned up. It was a complete failure. An example for that is that new project is an utter failure. It was just a mess. It was not redeemable. It was an utter failure. This is something that you can use if something just falls apart and just doesn't work. Another example is go sideways. And I really like go sideways because usually sideways just means sideways, but if we're going sideways, it means things are starting to go wrong or fail. They haven't completely failed. They're not yet an utter failure, but they're starting to go sideways. And you see this used a lot with business and even relationships. relationships. Here's an example from our book. My dinner party started to go sideways when I spilled soup everywhere. Here's my example. This job is really going sideways. So if something is not quite right and it's starting to fall apart, but it's not yet a failure, it can be going sideways. That's a nice idiom there. Then we have recipe for disaster. And recipe for disaster is really good because usually a recipe is we're trying to make something, right? And so in this case, we're actually making the disaster, which we wouldn't necessarily want to make a disaster. It means it's a cause of major problems. The example from the book is Nicola's decision to take her dog shopping turned out to be a recipe for disaster because it caused so many problems. Here's my example. Waiting till the last minute to study was a recipe for disaster on my test. And I've given you pictures of some disasters. Why was it a recipe for disaster? Because it caused me to fail on my test. Recipe for disaster is like the cause of a failure. So those are my 3 failure from the book, Failure Idioms. And then I want to wrap up with, you'll remember this week we're doing our bonus idioms, our D idioms, in our other book, which we have and we're using, which is the Scholastic Dictionary, which I like. It doesn't have any activities, but it's got a lot of really good idioms. And one of them is diamond in the rough. I love diamond in the rough. The meaning of diamond in the rough is that something doesn't look really good right now because it's rough, but it has a lot of potential. Because if you actually take diamonds in the rough, they're ugly. They just look like coal. But then when you chip them and polish them, then they become these beautiful shining things that can be runaway successes. Diamond in the rough is my bonus idiom, and it's the one that I like very much. It's okay to be a diamond in the rough. In fact, most of us start out as diamonds in the rough. For this week, I want you to keep up your great work studying idioms, and you are going from strength to strength, which is also in our book, so you can look that one up, all right? So have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.